Hi, today I'm going to do a quick video on the Caro Kann Tal Variation. So, if you don't know, Caro Kann is after e4, c6. The point of c6 is to play a d5 on the next move. So, white usually takes the full center and black plays d5. Now, the most challenging way to approach this is to play e5, clamping down on black and taking more center space. Now, there are two main options for black. Bishop f5, which I will cover in this video, and bishop and pawn c5, which I will cover in the next video, which will complement this video. So after bishop f5, Tal variation is h4. So you might be asking, what does this move do? So the point is, if black plays e6, black's bishop is actually trapped. After g4, anywhere the bishop move, it gets trapped by the pawns. So to avoid this, black will usually play either h5 or h6. Let's start with h5. h5 doesn't allow g4. So white wants to play bishop d3 to trade off black's bishop, which usually happens. And now black wants to play e6 to not allow this pawn sacrifice, which is very common in these structures, where white sacrifices their e-pawn to damage their structure and create weak light squared weaknesses. But pushing e6 also opens this diagonal, so we can also use this to play bishop g5 using the h pawn. Now, for example, if black plays something ridiculous like f6, we can give this check, and if the king moves, we can just back off, and they can't castle, and their pieces are blocked and can't develop properly. Usually black will move the queen, either to c7, but more commonly to b6, attacking the b2 pawn. A very common theme, we can play knight d2, and if they take on b2, we can play rook b1, winning their b7 pawn and also getting more initiative. So if black is very greedy and takes a pawn as well, we can take their b pawn. If they develop, we can develop ourselves, our knight to e2. If they give this check, we can block. And on the next move, we will castle and play c4. And as you see, black's pieces are not developed, and we can get an attack. And as you see by the evaluation, white is better, in all of these lines. So taking on b2 is very risky, but it's quite common. So after queen b6, black will usually play c5. Black will play c5. Now white has a couple of options. I prefer c4, as it strikes in the center and challenges black. If they take this pawn, we can bring our knight in the middle, and black has some problems. Also, there's some possibility if these pawns are gone, queen can team up with this bishop and deliver checkmate, which can happen, so be careful, be mindful of that. But usually they will take the d pawn. Now we can develop our knight to f3. If at any point black takes on b2, we can do the same thing, winning their b7 pawn. Also, you can run into some trouble if you just castle. You can allow knight b4, which is quite unpleasant, so it's better to play a3 as a prophylaxis for that. And after black develops, you can play castle, put rook on c file, trade, play b4, and you can get a very comfortable position. So that's if they play h5, but they don't have to do it. They can also play h6. If they play h6, it allows to play g4 and kick this bishop. So after this bishop goes back, very important, you don't want to mess up move order, you don't want to play bishop d3, you want to play e6 first to damage their structure, and only after then play bishop d3 trading. A very funny move here is knight d7, which loses to queen g6 checkmate in one. Uh, this is very fun way to lose. So, and it's actually way more common than you might think. But usually black will either play queen d6 or knight f6. Knight f6 immediately runs into some trouble after queen g6 check anyway. King d7 and bringing this knight. Black want to try to trade the queens to avoid danger, but it runs into knight e5 check. If king moves to this diagonal, bishop f4 is deadly. King d8 runs into a fork, and you can actually take this rook as it defends the queen. So black will play king c8, and we can still go knight f7, attacking this rook. And g5 here is just deadly. I mean, attacking this knight, and you get this open h file, you will, I mean, crush anybody from this position. You can play knight f4, knight c3, or knight d2, knight f3, with ideas of going e5, and so on. So there are also some early queen moves. For example, if they go queen b6, as I said, you can play knight c3, developing, and you can play a regular chess game with bishop e2, knight f3. Bishop will either go to e3 and or f4, and I wanted to go back to to go back to a previous variation. I forgot one line. If they play queen d6, we can play f4, and if black plays knight d7 trying to play e5 pawn break, we can play knight f3, blocking it. For example, best move is castle, we can get our knight in the middle, threatening a fork. Black will take, and in this position white has a very good space advantage. Also black has very limited places to go, as these pawns block black's development. So you will be very, these positions are very pleasant for white. I will do a complementary video explaining what to do if black doesn't play bishop f5 on the third move, but instead plays c5. C5 is actually how I play Caro Kann as black. I don't play bishop f5 because I want to avoid Tal Variation, because I think it's very dangerous and very tricky. Uh, I have also created a Lichess study that I will link in the description, where you can see these lines more in depth and also practice. I hope this was helpful. Uh, Please like if you learned something new today, and thanks for watching.